Hey, welcome back to TKD Performance Tips. It's the K-Man here. And there's an old saying which you may have heard, they could not punch their way out of a wet paper bag. And that is the question for you. I was judging a competition on the last weekend. Well, I like to call it a strong end because only weak people call it a weekend. And I was looking at the patterns, and so even though the patterns looked pretty, they were pretty powerless. So what I want you to do this strong, or this next training session, is to take a look at your execution of your strikes, your offensive techniques in your patterns, including your defensive techniques, and would that punch, would that fingertip thrust pierce a paper bag? Because what I was seeing a lot of is people going through their Taekwondo drills and then completing the position by making sure everything's nice and correct, but they just had no execution, it had no purpose, it had no driving power behind the techniques. So what I want you to do is, rather than focus on executing the correct technique and putting your body in the right position, or what a master once shared with me, Master Hutton, a pattern where all you're doing is making shapes, what I want you to think of is the application of each technique. So rather than doing a punch where you are putting yourself in the correct position, would that punch go through a paper bag? Would it drive through? So rather than hitting at a target, punch through the target. Don't punch at the target, punch through it. So imagine there is a person attacking you there, rather than punching at the person, does your punch give a ethos or feeling that that punch would go through someone? And to do that, you have to visualize punching through. So with all your techniques, think of the application of the technique, and rather than going through and putting yourself in that nice position to hope to score some lovely points, what that movement misses and does not have is the energy of the execution, the power behind it. And that is just pure turn the switch on in your head, that rather than getting into position, you're actually going through the opponent. I also use this example is, imagine there's a big paper bag and I have to punch through, punch out of the paper bag. One technique I use also is, rather than using a punch, use a fingertip thrust, a flat fingertip thrust, because that tends to relax your body so you can get the acceleration and the speed and you tend to have that like a knife cutting effect. That movement where your body, you're not turning, but it seems that your shoulder, your glenohumeral joint, is protracting in almost a subluxing way, where it's completely releasing and relaxing like a whip when you actually throw the technique. So many pattern practitioners I see in competitions, they will, and it's just they're punching at a position or getting themselves into a position and creating a shape, rather than getting that movement of that punch is driving through a paper bag or driving through the opponent. And to do that, you first have to visualize the application. The second component is you actually have to think of punching through the target, not at the target. And the third is just to relax the body and let the joints relax and extend themselves rather than contract. Because if you're always contracting to maintain that position, what you get is co-contraction of the muscles around the joints. It actually puts a lot of stress on the joints, and you end up getting sore joints. But if you condition your body where you just let those muscles release and relax and let the joint move freely, you'll get that acceleration and that speed, you get the power, and you get that perception of the attack going through the opponent or breaking out of that paper bag, exploding out of the paper bag. So there are some tips that could be helpful to take your patterns to another level. Rather than there's the person creating lovely little shapes and a nice little dance around the wall, around the hall, it now looks someone of actually executing powerful techniques full of purpose that would actually go through an opponent, not just touch the opponent. So for this upcoming time in your training session, start to think, would this punch, would this attack actually hurt someone, break someone, break out of a paper bag, and do I feel that energy from my whole body going through my body, right through to my fist, and I can actually feel the energy going out into the fist rather than just creating a nice little shape and adding a little at the end, thinking that the sound gives the perception of power. No, the sound should just be the consequence or the byproduct of a powerful technique, not something that's laid over a technique to make it sound powerful. So something to think about when you're practicing your pattern techniques. The other technique I use to finish off with is before I go into a pattern performance, because when you spar, you tend to relax everything anyway, right? When you actually spar. So what I like to do is just before I go on, I actually start doing some light shadow sparring, because that's how I want my pattern techniques to be, is to be relaxed, loose, because when I start doing that, then I apply that to a punch, then the same feeling goes into that offensive technique or defensive technique in your patterns. So see you in the next TKD Performance Tips. Practice that, and I look to see you looking and being more powerful, where paper bags, boom, explode, even when you come near them. Take one.